What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. It's slightly unusual because I'm continually trying to figure out why the lip sync isn't quite perfect on this stream. So I'm going to clap my hands before I introduce the panel members. So that's me done. We are joined by, I've forgotten your name already, my friend. I'm really sorry. Let's have a look. It is Scott, Righteous Force, Arwin, 10th Man, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome, one and all.
Hey, hey, hey.
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning, good morning. That's all I'm getting. Any signs of a physical geometric sphere edge?
Morning.
Morning. Thanks. love the conciseness. Any signs of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curve?
No. That new province called Chaz in Seattle.
Chaz is Scott's name for the purposes of the show, is it?
No, Chaz is that autonomous 6-block city in Seattle that the protesters have. They can't even see its curvature.
I don't follow the reference, but if it's a no, then I'll move on. Any signs of axial rotation? Neil?
No.
No motion.
Hey, Owen.
Hello.
So with all the rustling today, lots of rustling from everybody I see.
Am I coming through loud and clear?
Yeah, you are.
All
But
right.
Neil's mic is a little hot. He fixed it.
Okie dokie. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
No scientific evidence of something that's labeled for something else.
Yeah.
Any...
Like scientific evidence of a rainbow.
You could probably acquire scientific evidence of rainbow. That's a phenomenon.
Okay, bad example.
Moving on. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
None whatsoever. They can't get past observation.
Hey, Chocolate.
Good morning. Can you guys hear me?
We hear
Yeah.
you. Good to have you.
Cool. Cool. How's everybody?
Very well.
Wonderful.
No complaints.
Very cool.
Oh, wait, now I got it. Better example for the, gravity situation is the ether. That is also an aberration. So,
Yeah,
aberrations are all alike.
they're labeling disequilibrium and an object finding rest as gravity. There's proof that with Riley's egg more than what they're saying.
Well, they're attributing the force that's exerted through the relative density and the disequilibrium. Indeed, they're misplacing that force and laying it onto another conception for which there is no actual proof.
Correct.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Nope. I can't
None.
see it.
Well, we see it, but we can't get the distance.
Any
I don't
evidence
see
that
it.
you can have gas pressure?
I see it.
Oh, go on. Sorry.
I see it.
What do you see?
Okay, so let's put sticks in the ground. Let's see where that gets us.
It gets us sticks on the ground. That's where that gets us.
So the shadows don't mean that
The
globe
question is
underneath the sun?
distance. The question
right.
is distance.
Right, yeah, I'm just gonna have to presuppose that somehow then.
There we go.
Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
According to the ballers, you can go to a propane station with an aquarium and fill it up.
Well, I don't know. I think there's something to be explored in this whole net container zero thing. You've got
Say that again?
You've got two containers. Then that's kind of net container zero, isn't it?
Oh, I
Think
see
about
what
it.
you're saying. Because the propane guy has a closed container, which he has to give you the gas.
Yeah, but then if you put it into an open container, you've got net container zero, I would say. If I was a baller or retarded.
Net container 0.
Yeah, two containers. If you're trying to demonstrate gas pressure without a container, you've got a whole net container zero situation. If you take gas in a container and put it in a different container, net container zero. What's your problem?
Yeah, one container minus one container, then you have 0 container. There you go.
Exactly.
The problem is I pay the money and I have no gas to show for it.
You just ended up with net gas zero. That's called entropy.
Which I guess is not a law anymore, according to some Globers.
Depends if it violates your religion. If it violates your religion, you can just disregard it as a natural law, a law of nature, applicable always and inviolable. You just ignore it. If you're a fundamentalist religious zealot with a sky that's a vacuum, standing in violation of natural law, well then, shad law schmore, right?
Lashma.
Right.
Who needs entropy?
Entropy schmentropy, right?
Come on, Neil. Give us a New York version of that one.
Oh, I didn't hear you.
Don't worry about it. Catch it on the replay of the show.
You gotta tell them forget about it, Neil.
Forget about it, Neil. Way to go, John.
Oh, yeah. Forget about it.
Any evidence of an R value, Earth radius?
Oh, this is so good.
Black Swan.
Black Swan.
Just the fact that it's a sphere, it's got to have a radius. Who cares how big it is? It's got a radius.
If you've got a sphere, it's got a radius. That's correct.
If.
What sphere? Again?
Yeah.
And if it's a
What's the
sphere,
proof?
it's got a radius. He's correct. That's right. If it's a sphere,
If, yeah, of course.
So what's
What is
the indication?
What is a sphere?
Well, I already know where this is going. Who's the guy talking?
Tony V.
Some
Tony V,
moron
you
named
there?
Tony. Gotta
Tony
work
V,
it.
are
I
you
just wanted to say
there?
that one thing.
I'd like to address
What's up,
your
man? How you
mistake.
doing, man?
Sorry, go ahead, Tony.
No, I'm working. I just wanted to say hi, and I wanted to say that. But that's it.
Yeah, okay. Well, if it's a sphere and it's got to have a radius, then the radius just at 10 miles would make it 264,000 miles. So everything about their cosmology and everything they've ever done would be wrong. And why did we just find out in 2020 that it's not 3,959 radius, but it's really 264,000 mile radius? Is that something that could go unnoticed all these years?
By some, it would go unnoticed. By others, it shouldn't, though.
flight time be if it was really 264,000 mile radius versus 3959? How long would it take to get from LA to South Carolina?
An hour and a half.
From LA
2
to
hours.
South Carolina,
Did
hour
you
and
say
a
an hour and a half?
half. That's what he said.
I thought you said if it was shortened, like shrunk.
I think he's busy. I think he's convoluting east to west flight versus
I am,
west to
sorry.
east. Well, the oceans must be bigger, right? So then Atlantic crossings would
Oh,
take
yeah.
longer. Pacific crossings would take longer, right?
Yep.
So why did we just
27
find out that the Earth was this big if the actual travel time should have told us anyway, right?
But the travel time seemed to match with, I guess, what?
Does the travel time match with 264,000 mile radius Earth or 3959 Earth?
Whatever one's the one that works.
Okay.
I love it. That was good
Yeah, I've been
comedy,
here a
Howard. Thanks
while,
for
you
your
know, I know how to play this
input
game.
there, Tony V. No, I'm just thanking you for the comedy early in the morning. I appreciate it.
Well, he's not wrong, right? I mean, it's whatever works for them at the time that they need it to work, right?
Yeah,
That's
it's
how
only a
this
model.
goes.
Only a
So-
model. Just whatever works, right? It's just a model.
Well, that's why it's comedy, because it's not real. If you're going to just say whatever works, then we're not really seriously debating the subject, are we?
We're not on the really is level.
You said that
Spear
from
brain.
the
Go on, Tony.
Was someone talking? Because I haven't heard anything in the last 15 seconds. My
Yeah,
phone's messed up. Man.
You were talking, then you stopped.
Oh no! It's too early for me to put together sentences that are 3 sentences or more right now. So don't.
Oh,
don't expect
Lucky you
anything strong from you this early in the morning, is what you're saying. He is funny. I like him. Come back tomorrow.
I've been here forever. Nathan knows me.
Well, I'm
I was
enjoying
thinking
this
about back in the
comedy.
day,
Relief,
Nathan,
at
like
least.
the good old days. It was fun back then.
Oh, you mean when the Earth was 3959?
No, back in Nathan Oakley's 1 through 11, 1 through 100.
Back when the geometric horizon had some type of physicality to black boats and stuff. Back then, way back.
Those were the days,
Those
Jocko.
were the days,
my friend.
Before we unpicked the curve calculator, we used to sit and run things through the curve calculator and argue about how well they matched or didn't match with the curve calculator. Then over time, we exposed how the curve calculator had taken what you see in the image, turned it side view, put the side of your own head in the shot, removed all aspects of perspective by detailing any target in feet and inches that do not change with distance, unlike angular size. So by the time we'd exposed all that, we ended up detailing what they used to call the curve calculator as the begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking curve calculator, because it's taken the effects that we see of things getting smaller and smaller into the distance and asserted that that's actually things going over Earth curve. When you point out that you have a diffraction limit, they'll back you, like Phil did. So yeah, we've got a diffraction limit. It's like, well, yeah, once we've established that that's the case and it's relevant to optics, that would be things being photographed, you're definitely going to need to stick that in your maths then, because you're comparing what your maths does inside view with whole numbers, actual sizes for targets. So what's that? How high is this building we're looking at? Oh, it's 100 feet. It's 100 feet. But it's 1,000 miles away. Yeah, it's still 100 feet though. Now, if I draw that with you on the left-hand side of the page and the 100-foot building on the right-hand side of the page, and I draw a flat line that they're both stood on, because obviously we're presupposing flat Earth like you do, you fundy globe head, we're going to assume this flat line is the world we're standing on and we're seeing the side of our own head. And I'm going to draw a line between the side of my own head, which I never see in pictures, and this building that's 100 feet. And you know what? I can draw a line between this building that's 100 feet and me, side of my own head, and write 1,000 miles on it. And according to this diagram, I can see this building. It's amazing. Why can't we see this building on a flat Earth? Because according to my diagram that removes all aspects of perspective and describes how we would see a 100-foot building, even though we see with angular size, apparent size, not actual size, we're always going to have this building described as being 100 feet. It doesn't matter if it's 1,000,000 miles away, because I can draw the line between the two things and write 1,000,000 miles on it. We should see it. Well, why is that? Well, that's because when I draw a globe in and things start to get too small to see, potentially from the bottom up because of the limitation of the deck you're looking over, the thing that limits the angle of view, causing things to disappear from bottom up, I'm going to assert that that effect is actually caused by a geometric sphere edge horizon that has blocked your view while we completely ignore all aspects of angular resolution and the diffraction limit, otherwise known as perspective. We're going to ignore all of those and assert there's only one reason that things disappear in the distance. That's because they're hidden behind a physical edge called Earth curve. That's why we use the Earth curve calculator to figure out how much stuff's gone in the distance, because it's Earth curve causing that. What's that? Perspective? You mean flurspective? Ha 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 ha! We're not doing perspective, it's a geometric calculation. Right up until the point that we point out that a geometric calculation requires a geometric horizon, and then that's a very real problem, and it's basically the end of the maths. We point out how it hijacks perspective, we point out how it uses actual sizes instead of angular sizes, ignoring all aspects of perspective, how it doesn't match the picture you're looking at because you've got the side of your own head, and how you don't have a geometric horizon to base the entire premise of the maths on. So you can't come back like you did in the first 100 episodes and just put a calculator under our nose and tell us how it proves Earth's a sphere with the presupposition of an R that we've debunked. It can't be like the good old days. Earth's definitely not spherical, and we have exposed every trick in the book that is used to prove to fundies, not really proof, just normally a begging the question fallacy, prove to idiots on the street that they're on a globe. Now, it's not actual proof, it's all logical fallacy, but we've exposed every single trick that is used to assert that we live on this globe. We don't. So yeah, it can't be like the 100 episodes where we didn't know any of these magic tricks and exposed them. Sorry.
No, I wasn't talking shit. I was just reminiscing because that was fun. I had a good time coming on. I think
because you were winning.
10 minutes.
Because you were winning.
That's
why. You were winning. As soon as we opened up the book on the calculator, from the very moment we looked at the calculator and started discussing it, the globe side had won the argument. We were already into begging the question. So you liked it because you were winning. You liked it because you were winning. Maybe you didn't appreciate that.
I'm not really winning.
No, in the first 100 episodes, as soon as we use the curve count maths, we're begging the question, we're assuming our outcome, we're assuming Earth's a sphere regardless of the outcome of the calculator. Every outcome from the calculator is a sphere win. So the second we start discussing the calculator, like with the Isle of Man, every single discussion and every single show is a win for the globe. Because we're already into begging the question of a globe. You win no matter what the outcome. Now, we've exposed that since. So you liked it because you were winning on the globe side. We didn't realise that at the time. We do now, and we expose that.
You're good, man. I'm gonna tell you what. You have definitely grown as a debater in the past 1,000 shows. I was just trying to get a compliment, like, hey, remember back in the day, but you are damn fucking not gonna do that.
I'm agreeing with you, but I'm just pointing out the reason you got the endorphin rush that you did is because your side was winning. That's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that's when I first started looking into everything. You know, I figured it was a globe a long time ago, but in Hawaii is the first time I thought it was a globe. But that's another.
Oh, do I detect a subtle change in tone from you?
Oh, wait a minute! I've been Hawaii 7.
Hold on, 10th man. Sorry, do you want to
just
repeat that?
walked into my car. I'm sitting here at the post office, and some good dude just walked in. I'm sat in my car.
That was intelligible. Sorry.
Cool. No, just someone just sat in my car. He's got the same Prius as I do. He came in and thought it was his. And I'm sitting here talking to you, and all of a sudden some dude sitting next to me.
So you're still on the globe side? Are you still on the globe side, Tony? I was trying to be subtle, but I'll just cut the subtlety.
Yes, sir.
Why?
I am. Oh, because just too much evidence. I just can't. I can't. You know, I mean, you guys really made some pretty good arguments on refraction and, you know, the optical side of it. I do have to give you that much, but it doesn't outweigh, like, the two celestial spheres, like the circles.
What celestial sphere?
Hold on. Can you just let him get to the end of his points? Sorry, Tony. Go ahead.
Just like the major ones, like the usual ones, the sun not changing size. All the other planets are round. That was kind of a sphere, but that's kind of a crappy one. But I don't know. I'm in a crappy mood, so.
Sorry, celestial spheres. Let's start there. How does that prove you're on a sphere to you?
It's just the only way that you can have those patterns in the sky. I mean, there might be another way. I'll just say that. But the one that makes common sense is that we are on a sphere.
Sorry,
and
that's just,
they are all.
Sorry, I'll just start again.
Have you ever been in a planetarium?
Hold on.
You know, it's very easy to project that.
God, this is going to be much harder than I expected. Obviously. Sorry, you started out by begging the question. Let's start slow. Do you know what begging the question is?
Of course, I do.
So
I just don't really. That doesn't really matter to me because this isn't a. We're just friends talking. Oh crap! I gotta drive now. Dang it. You know what? I'll come on tomorrow or tonight.
Okay, fair enough. I'll go through it with you. We'll relinquish you of your globe faith. I assure you.
I just wanted to ask him, like, if he can't imagine it working any other way than just spheres spinning around the sphere. Well, has he ever been to a planetarium? Because they make it look exactly like it looks. And they're not spheres, they're actually lights being projected on the inside of a sphere. It looks
inside of a dome.
Yeah, dome is...
I'll give you an argument.
So, if you can't imagine it any other way, then realize that it can already be made to look exactly like the real thing.
Yeah, they're already doing it.
Exactly.
If you can just do one thing for us, if you can just figure out a way of... Has he gone already? Oh, bummer. So tune in tomorrow for the Affirming the Consequent Formal Logically that is the use of the celestial rotation. Hopefully.
How odd is it that some stranger jumps in the passenger seat while he's talking?
I think he was being robbed.
That was funny.
Can't lie. I've heard a story like that before. My friend was waiting for me one time, and sometime where somebody just got into his car because apparently that person was waiting for somebody with the same car. And he just got in the car, and they just looked at each other like, obviously this is not what it was supposed to be. So goodbye.
Just for clarity for the audience's sake, so Tony. Arwen will remember Tony from way back when, but he was actually one of the more reasonable people on the panel. Now, that's a panel with a very, very, very low standard, I might add. But nevertheless, on that very low standard, he was one of the more reasonable people. So, he hasn't been around for a while, but I sense cyclically that we're going to get some of the older assertions. So I'm going to do a quick shout out to Validation Boy, who was the first to phrase this example that I'm going to give in the way that is being phrased to you now. So every single globe proof ever will start with the assumption that you are standing on a sphere. Now that is the very essence of begging the question, and it was Validation Boy who was the first to point that out or put it onto a video in this arena in the last, I don't know, it was probably 4 years ago that he did this, but it really resonated with me. It doesn't matter what example they give you. Every example will just force you to assume you're standing on a sphere the moment the premise is being established. So begging the question is the only way they ever get to claim to prove that they're on a sphere. And that was exactly what Tony just did. So well, we've got this observation. They normally strap it in with a formal logical fallacy, which is to say they start with a premise, Earth is a sphere, and then say something will happen, in this case star rotation, and then they confirm that their globe belief is based on that star rotation that they detailed. So if P then Q, that would be if Earth sphere then star rotation, then you have the converse, which is star rotation, therefore Earth a sphere. So it's affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy. If P then Q, Q therefore P. And the fallacy is because one doesn't necessarily follow the other. And I'll just example this quickly so that it's clear for the audience. If I eat 10 hamburgers, that would be my if P statement, then I will be very full. That's my Q statement. Now, if I then affirm the consequent, which is to say, if I am very full, I have therefore eaten 10 hamburgers, even though I'm actually blind drunk and it's all been beer that I've consumed. So the one doesn't necessarily follow the other. So there we go. That's the affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy based on a begging the question fallacy, which is the P statement assumes your outcome if Earth's a sphere. So all examples to demonstrate you're on a sphere will start with the assumption you're on a sphere. Shout out to Validation Boy.
How did I not see that, though? I don't understand it.
So it's if the outcome is asserted type of setup, basically. You start out asserting the setup. Like, let's start out with it being a sphere. Oh, if it is a sphere, it's like this. Right?
If I give you a different
It's
premise
like if
that
we
doesn't
see-
exist,
if
like
we
unicorns.
see- if the Earth is a sphere, we'll see opposite star rotation in southern hemisphere. So, if Q then P, then we see southern star rotation. Therefore, it's a globe, right? But
Yeah.
that's not the case exactly, right?
Yeah, so
So-
if I say, if unicorns are real, then we will observe grass turning brown in autumn. We do observe grass turning brown in the autumn, therefore unicorns must be real. And I can pepper that with as much qualifying nonsense as I like, so long as I affirm the consequent after begging the question. Or, to make it a more direct begging the question, unicorns are real because the grass turns brown in the autumn.
Well, I would just say if you're going to pepper anything, go back to the hamburger example.
Jeez, man, I knew it was coming.
That's a well-seasoned joke.
Oh, very
Boom,
good.
boom.
Well, I believe that the black swan takes care of that begging question right away, because you have to have a physical geometric edge for it to be a sphere. So let's prove it's a sphere first.
I did like that what Tony said though. He gave us, I guess, props you want to say for the refraction and the optical side of it. He said, and I had a little like I smirked a little bit when he said that, because I was like, I wonder if he's understanding that his side has kind of jumped on the optical side of the argument and given up the physical side of it, and now they're telling us that we're seeing horizons because they're apparent. And
make
we're
a-
being
you
told
make a
that
good point.
we're forgetting about optics. Yeah.
You ma-
It used to be excuses, right, for why we're seeing what we're seeing, but now those are their excuses for why we're seeing a horizon where it's not supposed to be. That's pretty good. Go ahead, Zeppo.
No, I said you make a very good point. They have to, just like Coriolis, they have to prove it's not happening.
Sometimes I wonder if we're here as a test bed, so that the fundy double speakers can come and formulate their double speak in a coherent manner and see it play out against opponents. How well does this double speak go over? So, I mean, it could be easily spun into conspiratorial speak, but I'm sure people know what I'm talking about when I say it seems like the rhetoric will change. So before the show, in the pre-show, we had an example of a Wikipedia entry changing because of current rhetoric that's being discussed. Jeranism has gone through multiple examples where the rhetoric has changed before his very eyes. We've seen it during the first 100 shows when we were discussing things seen from Google Earth. So these examples make you feel like, well, are we here so that they can tighten up their doublespeak, so to speak?
Oh, if we're gonna be here and we're not going to go away, they might just as well use us as practicing ground against us. No?
Well, they probably shouldn't have come in with the geometric horizon exists in math only, and then proceed to tell us how that math gets refracted into an apparent horizon.
Yes, refracted math, man.
Refracted math. Yep.
It makes me think of like the virtual reality vision of the 90s or something. You know, that's
Well, they don't want to.
refraction.
They don't
of
want to
math.
admit. They're unwilling to admit it's a thought experiment. That it's not physical. It's not real. It's never existed, of course, but they have to go to math to make it exist.
But I thought they're telling us we have to embrace the fiction in our science, man.
Well, that's what he's doing, isn't he? He's embracing it with math.
But that's not science. That's math.
Hey, they'll take anything right now, even a bone on the ground. They'll take.
Gotcha.
The common vernacular is rife with convolution of maths and science. I see it all day. It doesn't matter what subject I look into. That if they've done a bit of maths and done some careful calculations, they'll say, "Look, man, this is just science." You're like, "What?" I saw it in acoustics today. So a guy I like, one of the acousticians I've been following, was talking in an interview with another acoustician I like, and they're having a little conversation, and he's detailing how room modes work and how the same room between the walls and is self-cancelling if it's the same wavelength, and you get a half-inverse wave. I'm like, yeah, this all makes perfect sense. So it bounces off the wall, flips, so it's the opposite phase, and then interacts with the original wave cancelling itself. I understand, that's perfectly sensible. And then he said, "This is just science." I could have slapped him through the screen. It's not science, that's maths.
He probably still thinks that math is just a part of science. You know,
Most people. That's my point. That's my point. Most people do.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. I was just going to say most people do. It doesn't matter what I see. Tyre review. I've taken these Michelin tyres, these Bridgestones and these Pirellis, and I've put them on the same car under the same exact test conditions. It's all controlled. And the Pirellis were more grippy. Scientifically validated. Pirellis are better.
Yep. I read
Total
a
nonsense.
quote the other day. I believe it was by Nikola Tesla, and it goes, "Today's scientists have substituted mathematics for experiments, and they wander off through equation after equation, and eventually build a structure which has no relation to reality." End quote.
Roll out the pseudo-Riemannian force space from Einstein, its length, breadth, depth, and conceptual time model with geodesics running through space-time. Yeah, that's exactly that. Precisely. He's detailing Einsteinian pseudo-Riemannian force space, a conceptual medium we do not live in, that affects nothing, that has no forces. That's exactly what that is. Right, a few shout-outs. So shout-out to Cleary, who says, "There are 2 gears in the night sky." That's a nice way of phrasing it, Cleary. I like that. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat. Emma UK also. Shout out to Emma UK. You got quite a fairly lengthy discussion about you and your show in the pre-show, Emma. But big shout out to you. Thank you for the super chat. You have a feisty chat today with plenty of socks. Excellent stuff. That's what I like to see. It's the pits, my chat. And I'm very proud to say that it's the pits. It is. Anyway, thank you for the super chat, Emma UK. Really appreciate it. Subscribe today to Emma UK. Al Junkie also. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat. If a beggar's rich, should we question the begging? I hope that's not a reference to me, because number one, I'm definitely not rich. So hopefully that's not a reference to me. But thank you very much indeed to Al Junkie for the super chat.
I got a story for that begging from Al Junkie. We were going to L.A., which we seldom do, but it was for I think. It was a wedding. Yes, it was a wedding we're going to. So we pull up off the freeway, and we're about to make a right turn. And right in the center island, there's this guy in a wheelchair, and he's got a sign up asking for money. So as we're about to make the right turn, it was his lunch break, I guess, because he just got up and started walking away to go get lunch. and we were dying laughing. And so we were just watching where they take turns sitting in the wheelchair begging for food. So
Yeah, that's bad. I mean, I make a joke about it occasionally in the chat. I'll be like, smash the super chat. And then if somebody even hints that I'm rich, I'll say, look, the Lamborghini's not going to pay for itself. And then if that gets a laugh, I'll go, no, you don't understand. It's a lease. It's a lease.
nice.
Yeah, just, I don't have a Lamborghini. Not that anybody in the chat was under the delusion that I did.
The ballers might take you on to task with that one.
That said,
Yeah, I'm sure somebody can Photoshop your face over somebody with a Lamborghini.
I have a question. Why is there somebody in the G Plus panel named Scott? Who's that?
He's all good. He's part of Master B.
Oh, okay. I was just wondering who that is. I'm like, hey, who's this person?
Well, I may as well do this on the live show now. So, basically, one of the things that Bev Try Thinking's been using as a citation is a Wikipedia definition of water level. And I've just got it on screen for the audience now. But the definition has changed. So we've had it highlighted to us. This was done in the pre-show in terms of the definition. Surface of liquid water level to establish horizontal plane of reference has now been changed to establish a local horizontal plane of reference. So just a subtle change that actually assists Bev in his argument, and that was the conclusion that was drawn in the pre-show. Check it out, Nathan Oakley channel. Goes out 9 PM UK time. Oh, bit of there. Let's shout out Unitox Femu. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat, Unitox Femu. Who calculated radius of Jupiter, Saturn? That's use of Kepler's third law of interplanetary motion and an assumption that Venus, for the scalar, is the same size as Earth. So the assumption that, if anybody's ever wondered, why is it the sister planet? Why are we twinned with Venus? Well, that's because it's been assumed to have the same radius value as Earth, so they can apply Kepler's third law of interplanetary motion and get the distances and scales and sizes of everything.
Assume that it has the same radius as Earth, which based on an assumption that it's a ball in the first place.
Yeah, step 1, assume Earth is a sphere. Step 2, assume the radius. Step 3, assume Venus is also a sphere. Step 4, assume it has the same radius as Earth. Now that's only a few assumptions, that's okay, right? And from here we can do all the maths, it's all good.
It's all good, don't worry about the first 4 or 5 assumptions.
So, again, I don't have a full understanding of what Kepler's third law is, but from what you just said there, if the Earth's radius is different, as Mr. Sensible said, what was his famous saying there?
At best, you would have debunked Earth radius.
Right, I love it. All right, so now it's 264,000 just at 10 miles. Then what happens to Kepler's third law on interplanetary motion?
I'm sure if you applied it, you could just push the distances and sizes out. So, you just need a scalar, I think is the word that Anthony Riley uses when he describes it. Sleeping Warrior, to those of you subscribed on YouTube or subscribed today to Sleeping Warrior. But yeah, you can scale this any way you like, and the scale has changed. So I don't know which Jeranism video to recommend in this regard. It's probably 4 years old now, but Jeran just went through it. You can change the numbers any way you like, push the distances out. I can never remember the damn guy that was the guy that put the objection forward in the first instance, but a very well-known guy whose name I can never bloody remember, but basically went, hang on a second, that would make these stars absolutely enormous. And then that got reverse engineered into the maths, and we end up with Betelgeuse and things being absolutely massive. So, if there's a little problem, well, that would make it enormous. Well, and you make it enormous. It's just a bloody light in the sky. Who's to say that Betelgeuse isn't a twinkly little tiny light that's a pin prick in a sheet over the top of a dome, or an absolutely enormous star? Well, you just change the maths whatever you like. You can do whatever you like in the maths. It's just a model.
But we have one big glaring problem with that. I'll explain the 99 that we don't have a problem with. We're not on Betelgeuse. We're not on Venus. We're not on any of these other supposed planets. But we are on this one, the Earth, which they assume has a radius of 3959. All of a sudden, we have the Black Swan, and the radius at 10 miles, and it's much further than that, is 264,000 miles. So we can test this one, and that's why the Black Swan knocked them out.
Yeah,
I
their
have a question
radius has been
about
fixed.
planet. Why
No
does
response? No
Hold on,
response?
hold on, Tenth. Hold on. Go ahead, Paul.
why does the word planet have most of it would mean plane?
Dun,
Why is that?
dun, dun!
Shh. Don't point that out, Paul. Shh.
Okay, I'm going to do a quick shout out. It's a good point, Paul. Unitox Femu says, common sense. Ha 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 ha. Thank you very much for the super chat, Unitox Femu. Bleeding Warrior. Shout out to Lying Warrior. Thank you very much for the super chat, Bleeding Warrior. Also, I think there was another one. Yes, there was. Cleary. Oh, hang on. There's another one as well. Cleary's just slipped off the page because someone else super chatted. Cleary, thank you very much indeed for the super chat. Oh, I always enjoy the chocolate sayings. Very good. Boom, boom. Thank you very much for the super chat, Cleary. Really appreciate your support. Also, Unitox Femu again. Nathan and QE deceiving. Is that deceiving? World, not NASA, is obvious. Okay. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat, Unitox Femu.
Shout out back to you, Cleary.
Chocolate sayings.
Oh, that was sweet.
Excellent
Some
stuff.
chocolate, bro.
Why do you think I said it?
I know.
So yeah, Paul. Planet, plane, airplane, plane.
Flat lands.
Flat.
You have for a plane to
Plateaus. Salt
And-
flats.
And there was a 10th man likes to quote from NASA that you have to assume the Earth is flat and non-rotating. And I think it's interesting, speaking of non-rotating, even in Einstein's equations, for them to function properly, of course, Jessie wants to get her 2 cents in, as I say this. Everything has to be moving. What if the Earth is stationary? What does it do with Einstein's equations if the Earth is stationary and it's not moving?
Oh no. Must be very afraid of that. Like your Edwin Hubble. Remember he said you can't have the Earth in a special location where everything moving away and around it, right? Matter of fact, let me go get that quote because that was a pretty good quote by.
Wasn't there a movie, the day the Earth stood still?
No, I think this is in reference to the CMB, right? The cosmic microwave background radiation stuff. That's a reaction to that because, well, maybe I'm vague on this. Chocolate will tell us in a moment, but that essentially puts us at a central location.
I got the quote. So it's Edwin Hubble out of the Observational Approach to Cosmology. Quote, the assumption of uniformity has much to be said in its heliocentrism, vast universe theory favor. But we would not expect to find a distribution in which the density increases with distance, symmetrically in all directions. Such a condition would imply that we occupy a unique position in the universe, analogous, in a sense, to the ancient conception of a central Earth. The hypothesis cannot be disproved, but it is unwelcome and would be accepted only as a last resort in order to save the phenomena. Therefore, we disregard this possibility and consider the alternative, namely a distribution which thins out with distance. The unwelcome supposition of a favored location must be avoided at all costs. End quote.
So Hubble was the biggest doublespeaker there is. He's convoluting every single aspect of the scientific method in that statement. So he's describing how a hypothesis will save a phenomenon. No. The supposition that he details at the end would be part of the hypothesis yet to be validated, and the phenomena would be something that you're studying at step 1. but he's detailing how he's going to save a phenomena that's detailing a concept. But yet he's called it a phenomena. It's an outrage.
Well, it sounds like he's defending a worldview and a philosophy, not science. That's what he's defending.
That's precisely what he's doing. That's precisely what he's
I just posted
doing.
it in Ballbusters if you want to put it up, Nathan. I should have given it to you before.
That's all good.
Can you put in Master B too?
Yeah, I got you. Give me a second.
Yeah, I'll stick it up on the screen, but yeah. When we talk about people being pseudoscientists, this is like poster child statement for that. Because every word is being used from his standpoint of science to the local yokels, and that standpoint of science is being used with scientific vernacular in a colloquial sense. It's just wrong. I mean, it's nothing short of anything else that people in cosmology do. That's what they do. They are, by definition, pseudoscientists. They have nothing beyond observation of phenomenon. But in this instance, he's even convoluted that into something that's conceptual and describing how his hypothesis is going to save it. What, save your concept? Because it's completely untenable? Oh, right. And what does your concept have? Well, it has nihilism at its heart, doesn't it? And we can't have that. We can't have anybody being in any way unique. No. We're not unique as a position. No, that's just untenable. We can't have that. And given that we've got control of this conceptualization, we can do whatever we bloody like. But let's make it sound like science, so anybody reading this horse shit will think that they're actually being told about something scientific, which they're absolutely not.
I love that he says it must be avoided at all costs. It's like, what?
Well, therein
that-
lies their unwillingness to consider the creator. Because that's why it has to be avoided.
Exactly. That's what I read when I hear that shit. I'm like, ooh, you guys, it makes you guys a little nervous to even try to postulate that we might be the center of the universe. That we might not be what you think it is. And then you're going to ignore the observations and then just go the other route and say that must be avoided at all costs in order to save our hypothesis, which should be based on our phenomena, which we see, which we must avoid. It's insanity, man.
Absolute insanity. Just another quick shout out to Unitox Femi, who says, "This is not proven fact, but is fact." Nice double tweet there, Unitox Femi. Thanks for the super chat.
Here, I'll use this analogy that I use all the time. If I'm a detective and I walk into a room and there's a dead body on the floor, if all I have is natural causes, am I a good detective?
What do you mean, after you've investigated the crime?
Hold on just one second.
Well,
Rest,
yeah, I
can you
mean,
pop yourself on?
my presupposition, there's
Hold on,
no
Paul.
intelligent
Hold on.
agency in this murder whatsoever. Only thing I have is natural causes. So would I be a good detective?
No.
Well, not if you walked in it with a freaking knife sticking out of his chest. And you say, well, somehow naturally that happened. Yeah, I'd say, yeah, maybe you should be fired from the force.
But gravity, chocolate, gravity, it fell off a shelf by gravity. Somehow an earthquake occurred, fell off the shelf, and it plunged into his back because of gravity. Natural causes.
Oh, so Final Destination, is it? Okay.
Gravity's the backstabber.
It's been stabbing him in the back for 105 years. Old and busted.
But see, the argument from the atheist side is that's God of gaps. So if I invoke any kind of natural or any kind of intelligent agency whatsoever, that's God of the gaps. But that'd be the same thing as me saying, well, because I say, well, the guy was murdered because there's a knife sticking out of his back. You know, that's intelligent agency, but you know what I mean? Just the logic of that is saying, just arbitrary saying that's God of the gaps is not valid.
What it proves, Paul, is that you as a detective in that scenario, you already have a presupposition, no matter what, it can never be another person, another intelligent being. It always has to be something else. So you would not make a good detective because your bias is ruling out another potential for the reason.
Either that or he works for Hillary Clinton and you know, people can
Nice
stab
one.
themselves in the middle of their back by themselves, you know.
Nice one.
Gotcha.
I think that was one of your best ones, man.
Good morning.
What,
Quantum
doesn't
Eraser.
everybody just shoot themselves in the back of the head twice, 3 times?
yeah, that's right. And then doesn't take the wallet?
Good. One sec. Good
Wait,
morning.
I'm gonna help the ballers out a little bit. But even if a person kills them, it can be still explained naturally because isn't a human natural? So even if there's a knife sticking out of his back, it's natural causes.
Right, I'm going to steal a line from QE just to end this. Right, what's the difference between natural and synthetic?
Man-made?
A man making it.
Paul was just trying to throw the fishing line out there, I think.
Stony silence is because this is a QE rebuttal. So when people try and juxtapose supernatural with man-made or natural, you have to ask them and get them to define the difference between synthetic, which is very specific and rigorously defined, and natural. Because when you're trying to establish cause, that's what the scientific method does, the reason it's defined here very specifically and accurately as dealing with natural phenomena, it's because if you have something that is synthetic, you know what caused it. A man made it. So that is already established as the cause of whatever it is that you're trying to figure out the cause of. Now, not limited to, but including things like gyroscope deviation or pendulums deviating. What caused this phenomena? What phenomena? How many pendulums do you come across in nature deviating? You don't. It's man-made.
Oh, so there goes the shoe.
Well, they only give you 2 choices. They only give you physical and natural and supernatural, right? But that's a false dichotomy. There's actually 3 categories. Supernatural, information, time, thoughts, those types of things. Physical and natural, sulfur, frogs, water, trees, and then man-made barbecue grills, Indy cars, shoes. See the 3? There's not 2. Numpties. Also, I got to get shameless plug. QE Live today on Quantum Eraser channel. The Retard Manifesto. You can't miss this, folks. 1 p.m. U.S. Central, 7 p.m. UK. Be there. Be sphere. Thank you.
I'll sell you a gram of memories. That's doable, right? Physical thing, isn't it? Memories, information. That's physical, right?
Can I pay with that with a bag of 5s?
Bag of 5s, yes, please.
Then we have a deal.
Can I push down the synthetic just a little bit more? I'll push it down, like make it go deeper with it. Usually synthetic things means there's specified complexity to them, which means I can put all the materials for an airplane in a hangar, and time will not cause that thing to come in. All the materials, the raw materials to become an airplane. It takes the ability to specify complexity or make these things more specific and do certain things for it to become an airplane.
Specify complexity. You're speaking my love language.
I was weird.
Yeah, go ahead. Go a little bit deeper. You can go further, Huey.
No, I don't need
in the background here.
That's a whole presentation. Well, at least a little bit of one. I just woke up and the power's been out for about 2 hours. So,
well, I can summarize it based on
It's not really a detailed. I mean, think about it. It's the difference between a sand castle and a sand dune. Right?
Yeah.
Damn you, chocolate. I was literally about to say exactly those words. And before the show, before you got here, they were saying, who would you pick as like a top level debater? And I said you. And the reason I gave was because often chocolate will be there when I don't necessarily have the right argument to hand, and you'll be there like Johnny on the spot with it. And in this instance, I was like edging my way in to say, if you've got a sand castle, right there, you there the exact same example. It's a QE example, by the way.
That's a really good example because everyone can visualize it.
Can you repeat it, QE,
Except
as it's yours?
Yeah, it's the difference between a sand dune and a sand castle. I mean, you could be walking on the beach. Just picture yourself, you and your friends walking on the beach. There's no one on the beach, and you come by this elaborate sand castle. We've all seen them, right? Some more elaborate than others. Anyway, you're walking on the beach because there's only two choices, right? Either intelligent agency. This is a proxy on the ontological primitives, intelligent agency or nature. So you're walking on the beach with your friends, you come by this elaborate sandcastle and you say, stop everyone. You say, wow, isn't that amazing? I can't wait to come back tomorrow and see what the wind and waves will make. You see, no one's going to say that because your buddies are going to call mental health institution on your dumb ass. Follow?
Good example indeed. It is a great analogy to the ontological primitives because, as you rightly point out, you can either have one of two choices. Either this sandcastle blew into existence by pure chance because there was enough time elapsed for that construction to create itself. Yeah, that ain't going to happen. Or somebody put it together. That would be intelligent design.
Exactly. That's simple.
Well, we've got to extrapolate that out just before the show ends live, so stay tuned if you're watching on the Premiering stream. But to elaborate out on that, that applies to our entire existence, in case anybody missed that subtlety. So there's either one of two choices. One, nature created itself out of nothingness in the similar vein that the sandcastle blew into existence merely because enough time elapsed. So nature created itself, or intelligent design created what we have before us. Those are your only two choices. They are called the ontological primitives, nature or intelligent design. Now, if you work with the latter, the intelligent design, well then the parameters are wide open to be basically anything, because its operation is outside of our parameters, because that is akin to a programmer making a game. The programmer isn't subject to the rules that he's going to impose on the game if he's creating it. Now, unlike that scenario, if you have the converse, or the other ontological primitive, which is nature created itself, then you're under the parameters of nature when you describe that. Well, nature has got certain parameters which we understand implicitly. They're called laws. The laws of nature. One of them being the first law of thermodynamics. The energy can't create itself. So because of the limitations of nature, it immediately rules out any possibility that nature can poof itself into existence, like the sandcastle. Therefore, we must have intelligent design. It is without question.
I forgot to finish it up. The functional sequence specified complexity of just a simple, the most primitive cell dwarfs by exponential magnitudes the functional sequence specified complexity of that sandcastle. That's very important. I left that out. Thanks.
Something organic in terms of its actual complexity is orders of magnitude more complex than something that somebody's put several hours into making with sand. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, it's still, the sandcastle still specified complexity. However, it wilts in comparison to just the simplest cell that you can think of.
Fair enough. With that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on the Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you're watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. There was actually one last super chat, I think, from Al Junkie. So Chuck Norris, 8R for breakfast this morning, he says. So thank you very much indeed for the super chat. As I say, stay tuned if you're watching on one of the Premiering streams. Massive thank you to today's Discord and G Plus panels for making today's live show possible. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!